Hey everyone, we're here with the last kit. Technically, this won't be the last recorded kit breakdown because not Explode, Dreadringer and Flingza will have their own video, which should be going up tomorrow. But I do want to do the wrap up in this video since this is the one I'm recording last, and there's only one kit anyway here, which is Leader with Beacon Kraken. I love the red, by the way. Both Dread D and E-Leader got to have red skins. It's my favorite color. Anyway, so E-Leader's kit is obviously another reference one to Splatoon 1. And I think it's about on par with the base leader right now. Maybe if they buff Wavebreaker, base leader would probably end up better. But, I mean, Wave is very synergistic with E-Leader. It's very useful for scouting, which is good. And Ink Mine is just the same thing pretty much, but in sub-weapon form. And, you know, it's both things Leader likes. It's a little bit of help defending itself. It's a little bit of location effect. And the custom kit is basically the trade-off it's always been. You know, beacons are nice to place around, but they take up a lot of time you normally spend sniping. And Kraken is a better defensive tool, but one that'll prevent you from shooting, and one that you have to be up close with as the longest range weapon in the game. It's both a sub and a special that have very strong upsides and very strong downsides. To me, I think this is mostly a Clam Blitz kit, where the ability to hold Kraken for cheese for a long period of time is pretty good. Like, that's been a problem with something like 96 is, well, maybe you need to use that Kraken to actually fight mid. But Leader is much more easily able to hold its own special, so maybe that's something we'll see. The Leader in Clams is pretty hard. It's nice that there is at least an option for Charger players now, so that's appreciated. And then in every other mode, I think it's a bit of a gamble. Like, obviously you could have it on tower, but you can get knocked off easily. It's mostly just for an overtime combo, so it's very risky on the lead. Leader and Rainmaker is difficult in general, and in zones, you know, it's a special that doesn't paint. So it's risky to be in it. It's also the easiest to ignore in that mode since it doesn't have as strong effects on the objective. So that's pretty much it. At least unlike Splatoon 1, it's not a worse Kraken than everything else due to weapon classes, since weight-dependent Kraken isn't a thing in this game. So that's cool. Anyway, I want to talk about the kit system as a whole, because at this point I've basically said all I have to say about Leader. It's safe to say that I got really disappointed by this season, and, you know, I was posting about it a lot originally, and I've kind of toned it back, especially when Dreadringer came out. I want to preface this with, like, Dreadringer D was my most anticipated kit, like, besides Custom Range Blaster, obviously. But Custom Range Blaster is important to me because it's the kit that was the most fun for me 7 years ago. It was the kit that got me more invested in the game, and I just want to be able to recreate that and do that instead of a game that, you know, won't be around anymore because of the servers. So that's why I want CRB. It's very different reasons than Dread, or anything else really, which is, for Dread, I wanted something to where I could build new comps and play with other people. You know, pushing weapons that are, like, lower tier, especially ones that are more niche, are difficult. Like, there are some times where I can't play with people, whether because they don't want to play with an off-meta weapon or because their weapons don't work with mine. And, you know, I really wanted something that could allow me to play with some of the people I wanted to play with without having to, you know, play stuff I don't enjoy. And I didn't get that, which sucks. And I also just enjoy theory crafting. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. I love trying to make weird comps work and, you know, trying to innovate on things. I think the meta for this game's gone really stale, and I wanted to see if Dread could shake it up, since it would allow for, like, things that you could run with it that you couldn't normally run, since you have an area of effect weapon that can paint and be aggressive, but also enable, like, another one. And, you know, that didn't happen. And was it harsh of me to react so negatively to it when, for more casual players, they'll probably be fine with the kit? Yeah, that's probably fair. I think I take that. I would say my feelings are still the same, but I didn't need to be as upset about it personally. I understand that. But I can still, you know, I'm still disappointed by it. It doesn't mean that that goes away. I think the more dedicated you are to specific weapons, the more the kit system in this game is hard, since you have to wait such a long time, and that's another thing I think people can agree on. Um, we now know the only 3 weapons that will have to wait a year and 21 months for their second kits, which is the Bamboo, the Range Blaster, and the Hydra Spotting, because today we got the Table Turf cards. And these kits are kind of annoying to me, because these were all weapons that had to wait a while to get their main weapon back in Splatoon 2. I remember it took a few months for all of these. You know, I remember Range, since obviously I played Range Blaster and was waiting for it. But the Bamboozler community is, of course, very, very loud. And I've seen plenty about that from them as well. And I happen to know about Hydra because I really liked Hydra going into Splatoon 2. So, yeah. But speaking of which, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the problems I have with the kit system casually and things that I noticed for this season. So, first off, let's take a look at this is the sub and special distribution as of February 2024. So this is after the season. We only have 8 kits left and 2 new main weapons, unless a third kit's happen. We have a special on as much as 8 weapons and someone on as low as 5. Crab Tank has been on 1 new weapon in, like, what, 6 seasons? And, like, forget Crab being a really good special for a minute, right? I just think Crab is cool. You know, I just like the Crab. I think it's a bit disappointing that a special that is as well designed as this and as new and as cool a concept is on so little. Especially because it started out being on mostly just shooter weapons anyway, which I can't really play as much, you know? Some people might not like shooters. And if you don't like shooters, the only Crab option is Splatana Stamper. Stamper is a very high skill floor weapon. Like in the Sheldon Sampler Challenge, the vanilla Stamper was one of the lowest when people were randomly selecting it. So if you're a casual player and you don't like shooters, then you're kind of very, very limited on your options for Crab. So I think that's kind of unfortunate, you know, and you could say the same for any special that's on 5 weapons at this point, including Kraken and Chump. They've clearly had more time to put more of them on. So this distribution could have been better, but I think what's really offensive is this one. Now, again, forget balance entirely for a minute. The 3 newest subs in this series are Line Marker, added in this game, of course, Fizzy Bomb, and Torpedo from Splatoon 2. These infamously only got on like 4 or 5 weapons in Splatoon 2, and I was one of the people who was really hopeful for them being on more weapons. But unless if they add like 4 Fizzy and Torp weapons in the next update, Fizzy and Torp and Dart are going to be some of the lowest distributed subs again for another game for 2 of them. Which again, it just feels really odd. This entire gap here feels odd to me. Like, I can understand not making kits all for competitive play. That's fine. But it feels really weird to have such a high difference of distribution and then to have some of your newest subs there. The final thing I want to talk about is reference kits. You know, I don't mind them when they're done well. I've had the opinion they've overdone some of them that I don't think work, but for the most part, if it's a kit that you know people had fun with before, or you know did really well before, then, you know, I think it's a good thing to bring it back. That's fine. But I think there's a bit of a bias to Splatoon 1 that hurt it a little bit. For my case, you know, now we have Leader on this Kraken list. 4 of the 5 Kraken kits are reference kits, and reference is not that it was on the same weapon. It's the kit is identical entirely to it. And if custom range happens, which, you know, a year and 20 months, 1 month later for an obvious pick that everyone wants, I think would be okay at least. Then we would have, what, 5 reference kits and 1 original Kraken kit on Blob. I feel like Kraken is something that could have had a lot more unique weapon picks on it. You know, it's a really cool concept. It's one of my favorite specials to use. I think it's one of the most fun ones in the game. And while I appreciate all the Splatoon 1 reference kits, that's fine. I also feel like it wasn't really given the chance to shine on anything super original, you know? And then the opposite, I think, is true for Splatoon 2 when looking at Inkjet, for example. Inkjet is one of Splatoon 2's most iconic specials. I've seen a lot of people want Splatoon 2 kits to come back, and one of the main specials I've seen hoped for on so many reference kits was Inkjet. And, Inkjet came back on a few, like on Ballpoint, but it didn't happen on Blaster, GoodTuber, Perry, Squiffer, Gluga, Brush, L3, Nautilus, T-Tech. It did happen on Rapid, Splash. So many Inkjet weapons in this game did not get an Inkjet back. It's kind of like, in this sense, you can see how it's the opposite, where so many are original. We've gotten some cool original ones, too. Like, obviously, Brella's really neat. I like Rapid merging with its Torpedo kit to be able to have Inkjet. This is my favorite Rapid kit they've ever done. And, making a more fun Ballpoint kit was great. But it feels odd, on one hand, to have so many reference kits that there's barely any original, and then have a special with the same situation in a different game that gets the opposite problem. I mean, there's barely any weapons with it, and a lot of them are newer ones. So, it's a small thing, but that's what I know. And obviously, the lower kit output hurts for it all. So, I'm going to try to remain open-minded. I've seen some people bring up discussion about this, so I want to clarify real quick. I like to talk about my opinions for competitive play. I like to go through my thoughts on weapons, because for me, kind of analytically assessing everything and ranking it and trying to understand why things work and don't work is what I enjoy about this game. The kind of theory crafting and analytical stuff and talking about all the little mechanics of this game is the part of Splatoon that I enjoy. And so I talk about it a lot. I don't want to discourage anyone from playing weapons. If you really like the new Dreadringer, then don't let anything I'm saying in the video about it tomorrow stop you from playing it. It's probably going to be fun. Outside of comp stuff, Wave is one of my favorite specials, and I'm looking forward to still playing it. You'll probably see me with it in solo a good bit. And if some of these kits that have been disappointing are fun for you, then that's cool. That's all the power to you. I also just want to say, like, it depends. For me, I'm not as flexible a player as I wish I could be, so I play a lot of very specific weapons, and when some of them get less thought out kits, it's a bit disappointing. But at the end of the day, Splatoon is made for everyone. I think casually or competitively, they could be doing kits better in output and design and how they make it. I'll have a full video on that soon. And my disappointment is not limited to just competitive. But if you're someone who enjoys the weapons, then that's fine. All the power to you, like I said before. So, I will try to do a bit better in terms of what I say about them when they come out. I think I should try to remember that there will be a sizable amount of people who will enjoy a kit regardless of what it is, which is good. So, that's something I have to learn from personally. I'll try to keep more of my thoughts to a video format in general, since I think initial impressions are always going to be swayed emotionally one way or another, just because you've been waiting for such a long time, especially as the later seasons come in, and that's something that I haven't really noticed as much as until recently. For competitive, though, yeah, this season has a lot of disappointing kids, so that's unfortunate. But we get a patch later, so we have more to look forward to, and, I hope that anyone watching has something they're looking forward to kit-wise, and yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate anyone who listens out to my full thoughts on these kind of things, as always. I've really enjoyed doing these seasonal kit breakdowns. It's been really fun, whether I have good or bad stuff to say about weapons, being able to do this old style of videos where I'm just walking around a training room from before I did content, but, updating it to be a bit better and more organized on the second channel has been really cool. This kind of unscripted, rambly stuff is something I find really fun, and I can't really do it on the main channel, so anyone who listens to my nerd rambles, I very much appreciate it. So, alright, that being said, I will stop rambling now. Goodbye.